All right, we are live on YouTube. We are live in person. Everyone, welcome back to another Investors Performance Group meeting. It is October. We're getting close to Halloween. Thus, as you see, the spooky kind of setup we have here. And unfortunately, we're going to keep this light off just because with a dark presentation, it's hard to see it with the light on. So I hope that's okay. I think you can still hear me, and that's what's important because I'm really loud and annoying some days, right? Okay, so we're going to kick things off. Just want to check here. Everyone on YouTube, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Say yes if you're on YouTube, and we'll keep it rolling. Just keep an eye on that for me. We'll get the ball rolling tonight. We have a lot of topics tonight, and the topics are going to be focused around what's been happening that you as investors really need to understand that's going to impact your business. There's been several changes in different laws at different levels, which we're going to be covering tonight. Of course, we've got some of our regular segments as well. So let's take a look at the agenda, if this wants to work for me. So again, for those of you guys who know, all of you know in the crowd here, but for those online, this is sponsored by the Kelly Fry team. We are a full-service real estate investment team helping you develop your portfolios. We've got all the access to everyone you need, including home inspectors, mortgage brokers, stagers, designers. Our stager designers in the crowd tonight. So if you guys are looking to invest in real estate, hit us up. Here's our agenda for tonight. First things first, we're going to start it off with Stuart Ross. How many of you guys have heard and already been plagued by the underused housing tax? Few people. All right. It's definitely, I can tell you from firsthand, listening to Kelly in the office, and she's here, so not here, so I can say it. She is just buried under this right now. We're going to have Stuart Ross come up. He's going to talk a little bit about what it means to you as investors, what you have to do with it. We got Tales from the Trenches, season 7, episode 10, by our very own Jordan Robichaud. He is our videographer, but he's done it in a very videographer way. So I'm excited for you guys to see what he's done. We're taking a look at Vancouver this month, especially because there's been some big announcements with Vancouver, including what they're doing with allowing up to 8 units on lots, what's happening with the development in the area, and Elise is going to cover that. We've got another series of unfortunate Airbnb adventures by Diane, and then I'll be covering the attack on the Airbnbs. So we're going to talk about what's going on, and we're going to give you as much information as we possibly can. Again, this is very fresh, very new, and we'll take it from there. And of course, what's going on in the market, some hot deals, and let you guys go and network and get out. So let's kick things off. Don't forget, we've got some nice prizes tonight. We always love the social engagement, so keep your phones out. Take photos of the speakers, post it to Instagram or Facebook, and use tag us at Kelly Fry Team. That's the best way to be seen. And at the end of the night, if we see some great engagement, we're going to give away a prize. All right, well, we're going to bring up our first speaker right away. That is Mr. Stuart Ross. Stuart, of course, for those who know, is a lawyer who specializes in real estate development, residential tenancies, and wills, estates, and more. He's with Garton and Harris, and over the last decade of experience, having lived and worked in the area for most of his life, he offers a unique perspective and understanding of the issues faced by his clients, and he is someone we turn to quite regularly when things are coming up that we need to know about, as well as any issues that we're having. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Stuart Ross. All right, Stuart, so I'm going to clip that onto you here. There we go. So anywhere just on there, that works. And I will fire up your presentation.
Thank you.
So we're going to swipe that one out.
This is my clicker.
That is your clicker. There you are, sir.
Thank you.
And you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. As Cameron said, my name is Stuart Ross. I am the managing partner of the law firm of Garton Harris. We are a full-service law firm. We do both residential and commercial real estate transactions, incorporations, corporate transactions, wills and estate planning, and all of the like. Today, I will be speaking about the underused house tax, or the underused housing tax. I'll also say if anybody has any questions or anything like that, feel free to interrupt me or put up your hand or yell at me or anything like that, and I'm happy to stop and discuss. So the underused house, and this is a fairly short presentation anyway, so don't get your hopes up that I'm going to be up here for a long time. So the underused housing tax, what is it? Who does it apply to? And what property owners need to do? So the tax, the UHT, is established under the Federal Underused Housing Tax Act, which came into effect in 2022. The filings will be due effective pretty quickly this November. So the best way to conceive of the underused housing tax is this is kind of the federal equivalent to the BC speculation and vacancy tax or the City of Vancouver vacancy tax bylaw. And the stated purpose of the underused housing tax is to improve housing affordability by discouraging certain owners from leaving residential properties vacant. What is it? The underused housing tax is a 1% annual levy on the value of vacant or underused property belonging to non-resident, non-Canadian owners. The Act exempts owners from the tax and this is where it's kind of similar to the speculation and vacancy tax bylaw. So you only get dinged with the tax if the property is unoccupied for more than 180 days within the year. So if you have the property occupied and at least chunks of a 1 month period throughout any given calendar year, you are not going to be subject to the underused housing tax. And that's kind of what I was mentioning just a moment ago. The qualifying occupation period requires a prescribed individual to occupy the dwelling unit continuously for at least a period of 1 month. So this is, again, is kind of back to the, as I'm sure we're some of the presenters going to get into today about the Airbnb issues here, is that you can't have it occupied on a daily or weekly basis. You need chunks of at least 1 month at a time, adding up to a total of more or less 6 months during a calendar year where it's rented or occupied by, I mean, there are some other exemptions, but it's more or less either those dealing at arm's length with the owner, as in renters, and you need to have a written agreement, or the spouses and children of the owner if they are Canadian citizens. If you don't fall into that, then into one of those exemptions, then the tax is going to apply. PR is the same, right? Principal residence is the same. Yeah, if you are a citizen or a principal permanent resident. Yeah. Unless residential property owners are, quote, excluded owners, they are required to complete an annual return. Excluded owners include Canadian citizens and permanent residents, except for the affected persons listed below. Any person that owns residential property as a trustee of, so think of like a REIT or an investment trust or something like that. A charity, a co-op housing corporation, or a First Nations governing body or corporation are exempt. Even owners who fall under one of those exemptions that I just mentioned there are still required to complete a filing. And the following owners are required to file a return. So non-Canadian citizens or non-permanent residents, Canadians who own residential property as a trustee of a trust, which I'll turn to in a moment here, any person that owns a residential property as a partner of a partnership, a corporation incorporated outside of Canada, or a corporation whose shares are not listed on a Canadian stock exchange. So that would include almost any sort of private or closely held corporation, or most of the corporations that people in this room are going to be dealing with, right? They're the corporations that you set up yourself for your investment purposes or all those sorts of things. So in practical terms, you will need to file a return if you hold real estate that is registered in the name of a company. So if you have a company on title to a piece of property, one of your holding companies or investment companies or something like that, you are going to need to file a return and show that it's been occupied for at least 6 months out of the year, with those rental terms being at least a month at a time. Or, and the one that people might not really realize is, which happens frequently, if you are on title in your personal name and you've done a bare trust. So as I mentioned before, Canadians who own residential property as a trustee of a trust, a bare trust counts for the purposes of the underused housing tax. So if you were holding property in trust for a corporation that you own, or for part of a joint venture with another group of people or something like that, you are a trustee and you must file a return for that purpose and show the 6 months and all that kind of stuff. Who to contact? So the underused housing tax is, in all honesty, probably more of a tax matter than a legal matter. It's kind of, who do you get to help you with your income taxes or your GST filings or things like that. It's really more your accountant than your lawyer that steps in and does those things. So it's really, if you are holding these kind of properties, you've got a few weeks left, you should be contacting your accountant to get them to help you, to assist you with the filings. If your accountant's not familiar with the filings, feel free to contact me. My contact information is up here, and I'm happy to make an introduction with you to somebody that does know how to do these, and I know is presently doing lots of these for the November 1st deadline. So if you're kind of stuck, feel free to get in touch with me, and I can point you in the right direction. So long and short of it is, if you own property in a company or you're holding it in trust, you need to file your return, and if you're not renting it for at least 6 months out of the year, you're going to be subject to the tax. So that's really it right for now. There's no cases or anything like that. Really, not a whole lot. There are some policy directions from CRA out there, but we really haven't gotten into the thick of it yet. So because it's not triggered yet, so we're going to have to wait and see what comes out of this, or if they offer any further extensions or anything like that. But does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, just going to ask, do you know if there's any penalties if people are late or if they don't file?
Yeah, you can get penalized up to $10,000 for failing to file.
It's pretty steep.
Is it going to replace the vacancy BC?
No. This is the federal government's foray into this very similar legislation. So, City of Vancouver did the same kind of thing. If it's vacant for more than 6 months, you have to pay. The province of British Columbia came out with which is kind of area specific, but they came out with the speculation and vacancy tax. So that's their kick in the can, and this is the federal one. So triple dip. So if you have something so if you're in Vancouver, you could get hit with 3 taxes if it's not occupied for at least 6 months. Yeah.
Right. Exemption for timeshare.
I don't know. Email me. Email me. I'll take a look. Okay, and who's it? Yeah.
It says two, actually.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look. Yeah, for timeshares. Who's on title? Your company. Okay. Is it rented for at least a month at a time? No. Yeah. Well, see, do you know what? Let me double check. I will check. There might be some exemptions for resort municipalities. Send me an email. I'll check. Yeah.
We got someone online.
Okay.
Read it up.
Ruben Ugarte asked, when does this start, or when does this tax start?
Well, you have to file by November 1st of this year.
Did they send out notices to advise you need to file?
No.
So the question was, is there any notices that went out? No.
I don't think they mailed notices to people or anything like that. It's just they publicized it in the spring. They didn't mail out notices.
The most I've seen is that they publicized it, and then your accountant started calling you right away.
Yeah.
Hey, FYI, we know what you own. You file with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even then, because you probably want to have an accountant help you with that, especially if you've got large portfolios. That's an expense right in of itself, right? I know some lawyers are charging upwards like $500 per filing, and if you have a large portfolio, that adds up.
Yeah, I don't even know that I'd turn to a lawyer for this. Getting lawyers to do tax filings, you're just getting really crappy tax filings at a premium. I'd get an accountant to do it for you.
Yeah. Excellent. Any other questions online?
Someone just commented that, they've been needing help with the filing. They needed to declare their strata corporation, but they did not have to prove occupancy. And then someone asked again, do we have to file only if the residence has been empty for more than 6 months in 2022 or in 2023?
You have to file. It's about the whole. You have to file if you fall into any of these classifications. it's in a company or holding it for a trust or.
Yeah, and I would say again, if you're unsure if you have to file for your property, best to have a conversation with your accountant and just they'll be able to tell you if you meet the criteria or not for filing. So, all right, excellent.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you hold property in a will, is that considered a trust?
Not for these purposes. So you mean you're like the executor of
Yeah,
an,
what is the executor of some properties that been transferred into her name?
in the so it's in her name now or in her capacity as executor?
It's legally in her name for the estate.
So as executor.
Yes.
So I think it's the same as the speculation and vacancy taxes. You get like your 1 year grace period that you don't have to have it occupied, is my understanding of how it works. But then after that, if it was remaining vacant, then you'd be subject to the tax.
Oh, it is actually occupied, but the question is this: does she have to file?
Do they have to file? Again, back to Cameron's comment, I'd ask the accountant about that, or you can email me and I can check the regulations. My contact is to the end there. But yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Sounds good. I'll give everyone a second to grab that contact. Stuart, really appreciate
Thank
coming
you,
out.
Cameron.
Thanks for that.
Good to be back here.
I know I
Mike?
asked a tax question to a lawyer today, but he said he's willing to talk about it, so that's what counts. Stuart's great, you guys. If you ever need any legal advice or you do need a recommendation to an accountant, Stuart's been a great help for our team, great help for our clients. And as you can see, he's willing to come up here, talk about something that's even a tax matter, to give you the brass tax notes so you get aware of it, and then you can take the right action. So, all right, we're going to keep the ball rolling. Thank you. Yes, round of applause. And we're going to bring this one back up here. All right, so our next segment here, we're all good on the volume there. Perfect. So our next segment here is going to be one of our more popular segments. Oh, what's going on here? It's thinking, technology. There we go. And that's Tales from the Trenches. Now, Tales from the Trenches, for those of you guys who are watching this for the first time online or even in the crowd, Tales from the Trenches was born out of the fact that at almost every event you go to, everyone talks about how amazing real estate is, how much money that you can make. And it's absolutely true when done right. However, there are things that come up. When you add the human element in a lot of situations, well, you got to be prepared to deal with that. And Tales from the Trenches is something that we designed as a way to show you what happens, that has happened to us, what has happened to clients of ours, so you can be aware of it and either do two things. One, learn how to completely avoid it with learning from our mistakes, or two, if it's unavoidable, how you can manage the situation and get through it as quickly as you can at as limited cost as possible. Now, for today's Tales from the Trenches, again, we're doing it a little bit of a different segment. We've got Jordan, who's going to be speaking, but he's not actually going to come up on stage. I wonder how we do that. Well, he's a videographer, so we can assume that he's gotten creative with video, and he's going to be sharing episode 10, The Dale Tales. So I'm going to let that play. Testing. Can you speak for a sec?
Hello.
No. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. I think we're back. You hear us? That works. Okay, you're good. I'm gonna turn that light on for you, so it's your presentation.
It's kind of nice.
Let's see you.
Okay. All right, guys. Hey. Is that not working?
Oy vey. This is one of those days.
I think you're just gonna have to.
You know what I blame? I blame us for doing a spooky event. That's why. Because everything's gonna be
Okay, here we go.
being spooky.
Anyway, so Vancouver, population of Vancouver just over 60,000 people, and it's an increase of about 5% from 2016. So this is based on Statistics of Canada 2021. The projection by 2050, Vancouver will be around 856,000 people. Average age is 42. Income in Vancouver, oh, that's not CL Langley, that's Vancouver, would be just under $100,000. And occupancy, again, like everywhere else, just below 1%. So what's happening in Vancouver? There's lots of changes came in, but there's a few projects ongoing. So one of them is Broadway Subway. So it's an extension of the Millennium Line. So it's connecting BCC Clark to Arbutus. So it's currently under construction, and they're projecting this is going to be completed by 2026. Originally, their goal was 2025. Shoring for the line. So this line is going to be about 6 kilometers, and they're projecting so it'll carry about 135,000 people to 150,000 riders per day in 2026. But that's not it. Actually, right now, there is investigation, geotechnical investigation for extension of this line. So there'll be connection between Arbutus and UBC. So originally, they were planning just have an express line, but right now, detailed technical design is in progress. So if you see this drill rigs, so this is a geotechnical investigation for the future line. So they're anticipating, so the work has been approved, so they're anticipating to have some preliminary results by December 2024. Right now, they're anticipating there'll be about 4 stations connecting Arbutus to UBC. 40% will be covered by federal government, and TransLink and provincial government will come up with the rest of the money for this project. They're anticipating to complete this section by 2030 or 2035, so it's still quite a way. So yeah, those 2 big projects are, so one of them ongoing and one of them will be happening in near future. But what's interesting, and I think you guys already heard, so there's new changes in the zoning of Vancouver. So most of you know that most of the Vancouver is zoned for single-family house. But these changes came on September 15th. So the amendment to zoning and development bylaw. So what's going to happen? City of Vancouver trying to introduce this new type of product, which they call multiplex. So it's 6 to 8 units on a single family house lot. So usually it's about 4,000 square feet in Vancouver. And what they're going to do, they're going to simplify their zoning. So they have currently 9 different zonings. So it's all going to be compressed in one, which they're going to call residential inclusive zone, R1. So the goal, of course, make it easier to build new housing. I know from a personal experience, I just finished a house just a year ago in Vancouver. It took me about 12 months to obtain a permit. It was not a straightforward process. A lot of hiccups. Requirements was constantly changing during the construction as well. They require more and more documents. So yeah, definitely need help with that. It was an easier process to apply for permits. Increased building design flexibility. There's a lot of requirements in Vancouver for design. Like there's a restriction on height. There's how many rooms you can have, how many bedrooms you can have. There's some requirements for parking. So there's lots of requirements where you have to satisfy. So and it's not easy to design a house. Again, they want to improve clarity and certainty about what can be built. And again, as I already mentioned, so they're trying to introduce this new type of product, multiplex, which is they don't have right now. So the options Vancouver have is, so there's also 3 options. It's single family house with a basement suite plus layaway house. There's duplex up to 4 units and character retention up to 6 units. So the multiplex will be a different type of product. It will be 3 to 6 units, it's ownership units, and up to 8 units for rentals. Again, they're trying to focus on a family friendly units, so 2-bedroom plus. There is no requirements for parking, which is nice because parking always takes space on the lot and reduce square footage of the structure. What changes will involve if we do a multiplex? Well, one noticeable one, now you have to have a rainwater detention tank. So it would have to be designed by a professional. New tree planting, that's kind of already, that's going to be, you'll have to hire arborists, but it was already part of the requirements in the city of Vancouver. So, and you'll have to have a PUT on the site. Okay, so here's some of the examples, what it's going to look like. It really looks like a single family house, but it has multiple units in it. And it blends very nicely with the rest of the houses, so you can really see that sixplex or eightplex. Okay. What is nice, they have a very, they're supposed to have a very flexible building envelope. Again, so more relaxed requirements about the height of the building.
You know what that height requirement is?
What's that?
You know what the new height is?
Oh, I don't know what's the new height is. I haven't digged in.
Is it greater than it used to be? It used to be 30, 40 meters.
It used to be very tight, yeah, and it's not the only height. It's like it was like shaped like that, right? So, I'll have to look it up. What's the height restrictions? But I haven't. I'm going to be honest. I haven't looked into details. So flexible building envelope, no design guidelines, and then minimum design requirements. So regulations, which is nice. And finally, you'll be able to submit your application online. So you don't have to run to a city of Vancouver with the paper drawings. So now they're actually accepting application and the drawings can be uploaded online. So we've done that a while ago, and Vancouver is always paper-based. What I don't have in this presentation, they actually come up with the new time for processing applications. It's 3331, so it's 3 days for renovation permits, 3 weeks for a single-family house construction permit, and 3 months for professional design multifamily buildings, which it looks, I don't know if it's actually happening. 3 months is a very short period of time. For Vancouver, usually takes more than 12 months. And 1 year for high rises. So we'll see how that's going to play out in Vancouver because it's very aggressive timelines. But, you know, all these changes, again, densification, further densification of the area of Vancouver, and we see new subways being built. Again, that will involve further densification of the Arbutus and UBC area. So those are very dramatic changes in Vancouver. Again, we'll see how it's going to play out. It would be nice to get a permit within 3 months, but I don't hold my breath. Just say that. All right, that's all for me, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep, there we go.
Back in the 90s, I used to get.
All right. Okay, we're gonna keep the ball rolling here. So we're gonna move into our next segment. Oh, you still got slides here. There we go. All right. Hope you guys are taking some photos. Let's move right into our series of unfortunate Airbnb adventures. And after my talk today, well, we'll see how many of these we have left afterwards. Without further ado, Diane Betancourt.
Okay, so I had a few this month that I could go over with, but we decided on Guess Who, Not Gord. So just to give you a little backstory, this tenant has been a tenant. Guest has been with us for about a month. I don't know how much louder I can get. I'm pretty loud. For about a month now. So we've allowed it because there's nothing wrong with the actual unit. No, it's not working. So I got to be loud. I got to be a little closer. Now, this Guess Who, Not Gord. The reason why we call it that is because the person who actually booked it is not staying in our unit. So Gord messaged Kelly probably at the beginning of, actually August 15th. He said, hey, Kelly, I'll be in the area working. So because he didn't have many reviews, Kelly wanted to prompt a little bit more and ask him some questions. Sounds great. Are you working for the pipeline? He then said yes. So he told her that he's tired of living out of a hotel room. Pretty standard. We'd had a lot of pipeline workers. So we thought, okay, why not? Then he said, are we able to check in? His booking went from 1 person to 3. So we thought maybe he had his wife and child come down. Still quite standard. So we thought that's not a problem. Then Kelly, we just talked to him a bit, letting him know with the cleaners. He's doing everything that seems normal to us. Shannon tells her that he can come in. And then he was wondering if he can offer me she could offer him some kind of deal for October, which is our first red flag. As soon as somebody is asking about that, we notice that they're not getting any compensation from the company. Usually you do get a little bit of kickback sometimes from your company if you're staying at the pipeline and things like that. So that was our first red flag. Kelly obviously told him no with Kelly's terms, talk about the percentages and everything. And then he said sometimes they do modify the reservation. This is where it comes in. I had a few questions because I was sitting there one day and I started to get message on message on message from a lady named Hannah who told me she was staying in this unit. I did not know that Hannah was there. The cleaners are now calling me. Everybody is calling me. Hannah's asking for a key because she lost one down the drain and all these things. I explained to her that she's not the one who booked. I can't give her a key. My first thing was there's something suspicious going on. She kept wanting to call me. And the first thing you want to do with Airbnb is not let the person call you, especially when you're suspicious. I wanted to communicate with her through here, but Gord was not in town at this point. So I just went with a text message. So I had proof of every conversation that we were having. She started to tell me that she couldn't tell me on the phone via text. She needed to call me because it was a situation that kept her dangerous. It was a dangerous situation that she needed help with. I knew there was a little boy there, so that was concerning to me as well. Long story short, I messaged him, I called Airbnb, I wanted them to take over because at this point, this could be a safety issue for my cleaners, for us, and the less that I communicate with her, the better. She was saying that Gord was a police officer and that he put her there, but Gord is not a police officer. We have been dealt with police officer situations, and they always let us know if there's something that we need to know. And he didn't have a phone because he was away. So the stories kept going on. He then explained to us that he suddenly was pulled away. She had lost her key. She had lost 3 of our laundry cards, which I did have to follow up with the cleaner because I needed to know these things so that I had a little bit more of an understanding when I was talking to them. Then she found her key that went down the drain because I was starting to threaten that she couldn't stay there any longer. So Kelly came in and had her words with Gord. It was alarming to her, of course, because we couldn't figure this out. The only reason why we allowed this guest to stay was because she hasn't harmed. We had somebody go into the unit. So we had one of our concierge go in there and do a repair and found that the unit was okay. The little boy seemed okay. The guests weren't complaining until the other day. So I was off doing a showing with my clients and I looked down at my phone and I have 35 text messages from a brand new number and it's Hannah. So I didn't know what phone she was using, but she was messaging me and I said, I cannot communicate with you. I couldn't even read all the messages. So she was then complaining now about the cleaners and that she's giving everybody money. It was insane. So I messaged Gord, basically explaining to him that I needed to reach out because I had a few concerns. We also got a noise complaint from one of the other guests staying there who communicates with us quite a bit. He's a long-staying guest and he's been messaging Kelly. So I asked him to confirm a few things for me, and if the noise complaints kept on happening, that we would have to shorten their stay. I put this through Airbnb and not to her because I needed Airbnb to see it for my proof later on if we need to get any reimbursement for anything. He has left us on red. So right now we have somebody staying in our unit that is only until November 1st. So we are watching it every day. We have our cleaner going down there. We have our concierge going down there. There hasn't been any harm to our unit. The child is fine. But it's always good to know that when you are doing any sort of Airbnb communication, never let them call you if it's something that you need to have proof on. So always do it through a text message or through Airbnb and give them a call. So even if Airbnb has not responded to my messages, I still called them so we have a file with them. And that is our tale.
All right, thank you.
Pretty loud.
We can hear you. We can hear you. All right. Okay. And speaking about Airbnb, literally, I think what everyone's been waiting for tonight. I've had people on YouTube. I've had everyone come to me tonight and said, hey, I hope you're talking about the new stuff that's going on with Airbnb. And yes, absolutely. That is definitely a segment that we are going to be talking on. Now, luckily, we're trying to find a speaker to fill this section. And then Tuesday, we got the news and we said, well, I guess we're talking about this tonight. Now, I will say a bit of a caveat here with this. The information is very, very fresh, right? So the information that I'm giving you tonight is what is available right now to us online, what we can dig up. So we're going to do our best to give as much information, but keep in mind, as this continues to, the ball keeps getting kicked down the street, we're going to continue to update you guys as we go. That's why it's also very important to be on our private Facebook group as well, so we can post articles like that. So let's talk about it. Short-Term Rental Accommodation Act. This is coming down the pipeline, whether we like it or not. Now, who knows what's going to happen? Keep in mind that this was only announced on Tuesday, and this has not been passed into law yet. Still has to go through Royal Assent, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So anything could happen. Lobbies could open up. People could try to fight it. We'll talk a little bit about what some of these short-term rental companies have already started to do as well. But basically, they have determined that thousands of homes are being converted into short-term rentals, counting to over 16,000 homes. Now, to me, 16,000 sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, with the population we have, it's still, to me, a small percent across BC, making it a challenge to find affordable long-term rentals. That's at least what they say. Many local governments have taken action to regulate short-term rentals, but enforcement of bylaws is a challenge, which is something we know, and that's what we've banked on. They've asked the province for more tools and resources. Now, an interesting thing about this is I was just at the Chamber of Commerce event, the Small Business Expo, or whatever they call it, on Tuesday, And in fact, we even had some of the counselors from some of the municipalities there, and they're in as much shock about this as we are. So as much as the government is saying that the municipalities are asking for this, one of the counselors himself said, well, this sucks because I run 3 Airbnbs. And he's a counselor in the city. So, interesting. The purpose of the new rule is to give the local government stronger tools to enforce short-term rental bylaws. As we're well aware, most of the cities have bylaw restricting Airbnb. But we know that it's very difficult for them to enforce and police it. The majority of the situations come from complaint basis, right? The return of short-term rental units into the long-term rental market, they anticipate that with this policy change, we're going to suddenly increase the level of long-term rentals. Sure. And then establish new provincial roles in the regulation of short-term rentals. And what this applies to is basically anywhere where you're promoting short-term rentals. That's Airbnb, VRBO, Expedia, Flipkey, even Facebook Market, Kijiji, Craigslist, all of that is affected. Because I did hear someone say, oh, I'll just stop doing it on Airbnb and I'll just go post it on Craigslist. Well, they thought about that. Sorry, guys. So what are they trying to do here? Well, first and foremost, they're going to increase the fines and tickets that you would be issued if you're running an illegal Airbnb. The maximum fine that regional districts can set for the prosecutions of bylaw offenses under the Offense Act. And when you read through the stuff online, they reference 10 different acts. It's crazy. It's going to increase from 2,000 to 50,000. So they're really trying to deter this, right? And platforms will only be able to advertise listings that follow the rules and have to remove the ones that don't. Now, what do they mean by that? Well, if we go back to the city of Vancouver, which we've talked about before, prior to even getting your listing on Airbnb's website, you need to provide Airbnb's website a business number that's been issued to you by the city of Vancouver. So what they're essentially doing is, it seems like they're following a lot of what the city of Vancouver has already implemented and helping municipalities with increasing the access to that same level of enforcement. So you need to display your business license. So making sure that they're operating and displaying their business license online. It's increasing the accountability for the platforms to make sure that only the people who have actual issued licenses can actually post their Airbnbs or short-term rentals. And they're going to be doing data sharing between the municipalities and those platforms. So basically, they can then enforce the bylaws. The platforms need to actually say who is running these and who is not up to code with everything. And then there's going to be a principal residence requirement. Similar to the city of Vancouver in a lot of ways, the city of Vancouver says that you can only run an STR if it's in your principal residence. Well, the province of British Columbia is looking to do the same. So short-term rentals can only operate if it's your primary residence, and you can do it in an additional dwelling unit. So let's say, as an example, you have a house with a suite and a coach house in the back. You can only still operate one Airbnb in that 3 suites. You can only operate one, meaning you're going to live in one suite, you're going to Airbnb one, and still have one for a long-term rental. So you can either do it in your ADU or you can do it in your basement suite. You can't do both. In most municipalities with over 10,000 people, well, for most of us running them here in the Lower Mainland, Fraser Valley, this is absolutely applies. There's not a lot of communities that are, running Airbnbs with less than 10,000 people. I just don't think the demand is necessarily there. And smaller communities and resort communities can adopt these rules as well. These new rules, of course, will not apply to hotels and motels, right? What do you think is going to happen? Hotels and motels are super excited probably, and rates are just going to, in my opinion, we'll see what happens. There's going to be a provincial registry. The province will establish a short-term rental registry that will help to ensure that rental hosts and platforms are following the rules. So, just like we don't need any more registries, we got so many now. If you're planning on doing this, your information is going to be on another registry. Hosts will be required to include a provincial registry number on their listing and also include their business license number, and it's required by local governments. Platforms will be required to validate registration numbers on the host listings against the province's database. So again, that goes back into them communicating. That's what they want, is more communication between the hosts and the platforms and the government to know who is allowed and who is not allowed to run these Airbnbs. So here's what the timeline looks like. And this is why, as scary as this sounds, And to me, it's like if you're planning on running one of these Airbnb businesses, we've been promoting it for years. It definitely sucks. But as it sits today, this is not passed into law. What they need to do is start with passing it through the Royal Assent. And after that is done, the first step is once it's passed Royal Assent, they're increasing the fines and tickets, and business licensing authority for regional districts is going to start. So that's the first thing. Now, we've already seen what can happen with this NDP government. David Eby made the announcement about taking away rental restrictions and the age requirements. And within like a week, that was passed into law, right? It was almost immediately. So we already know that when David Eby and the NDPs make an announcement, well, with a majority government, it's very easy. If that's their plan, things can move quick. So be prepared for that. May 1st is going to be when they aim to have the principal residence requirement. So if you're running your Airbnbs right now and you're not your principal residence, milk it for as long as you can. That's and again, changes to legal non-conforming protections. In summer 2024, they're going to start the data sharing. And then by late 2024 is the provincial registry launch, requiring platforms to remove listings without valid provincial registry. So again, keep in mind though, the fines start immediately after it goes to Royal Assent. So even if you're planning to kind of keep it down, like, you know, we're not having to worry about the principal residence. If you are caught, you know, if someone complains, the municipality says there's going to be some hefty fines. So, you know, keep that in mind. Again, we have already started seeing within hours of that announcement, you know, VRBO sent an email saying, hey, this is what's going on. Please be aware of it. We want your feedback, and here's some letters that you can send to your local MPs, MLAs, where, you know, Airbnb has sent some similar stuff. Doesn't seem like they're pushing it as hard as other platforms, but just be aware that this impacts them as well, right? Their business model is, you know, getting more and more of these Airbnbs running, and they get it off the fees. So they're obviously going to be impacted. They're obviously going to stand up, and hopefully we'll see maybe some changes. To me, it's just a big witch hunt, in my opinion, right? You know, landlords, Airbnb hosts, everyone is to blame for the lack of supply, the lack of vacancy in this province. So we're going to go after them because that's not fair. Life's not fair. You gotta wear a helmet, as we saw someone online saying. So that is the Airbnbs. Does anyone have any questions? And I'll do my best to answer this. But again, this is the information that's been provided online so far, and that's what we're going off of. Does anyone have any questions online? Clear as mud. Yeah. So again, yeah, Rainer.
Yeah, so did you say the fines, when will they potentially start?
So immediately after the law is passed through the Royal Assent, once it's passed into law, those fines will start immediately. So when that happens, I don't know. There's been I didn't see any information yet on to when they're planning on putting that to the table and voting on it. Diane?
I know they had fines before. That they used in a letter, but they never enforced that. You feel like that could be a situation?
Well, no, I feel like this is going to empower municipalities to enforce the fines at a higher level. Yeah.
Someone asked, what are the ways we can lobby against this?
I would say the best way is like anything is start writing to your local MPs and your MLAs, I guess it's out here, MLAs. Write to your MLAs, start sending letters, and just, you know, express your concerns to them. And again, keep an eye out for if Airbnb and VRBO and those other platforms have any sort of petition you can sign, anything like that.
Fortune on JST.
What's that?
They make a fortune on JST.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, today, unfortunately, and like I said, it's not only we're having the Halloween theme, but we're hitting you with a couple of things that are very recent news, the UHT and this Airbnb regulation. And as investors, though, it's really important to know that government policies are going to change often. This isn't the first time we've dealt with government policy changes. So as investors, the one thing that we have in our toolbox is creativity, right? Just like how when cash flow started going away, we started, you know, implementing, you know, Airbnbs and VRBOs and SCRs. Well, now we just got to come up with other creative ways to make properties cash flow, make properties have a good return. Or, you know, in some cases, you might have to go out. Now, I still believe in the Lower Mainland myself. I still believe there's a lot of great opportunities out here. And the one real thing that kind of wraps all this up as an investor for me is that no matter what happens, people still want to come to Vancouver. People still need housing. And at the end of the day, That's going to keep the inventory low, demand high long term. You're still going to do well. You just now need to flex your strategy to make sure that you have the ability to cash flow. Or even if it's slightly negative, I treat it like it's like my RSP contributions, right?
I think the definition of short-term rental, the BC government considers that a minimum of 90 days.
Yeah.
So you can still run Airbnb
Still,
rental.
yeah.
If you run it for more than 90 days,
Yeah.
then you're not going to be penalized, right?
Yeah, so you'd be basically running a midterm rental at that point, right? So Charlotte said that at the end of the day, the BC requirement for short term is anything under 90 days from the province. So all you'd have to do is just make sure that your people are there longer than 90 days. Essentially, you're just doing furnished rentals, right? Midterm rentals at that point. And then great way if you've already bought your furniture. Right?
Sorry, I didn't catch that about the 90 days. I thought short-term rental was always defined as 1 month or less.
Well, that's what
Under
the
1 month.
municipalities used to, but there is something online where they're trying to extend that to 90 days for the province.
Really? Okay, that's troubling because I do a lot of monthly rentals.
So I think what the province is trying to do in that case is that they know that a lot of people will just go to the 30-day. And again, their goal with this whole thing is to convert back to long-term, right? Their goal isn't just to kind of like, okay, we'll just put it to 30 days. We can kind of see through the lines here. Like their goal is that they're saying we need more long-term rentals. So we're going to make it a little harder for people to do this. So people go back to that.
Yeah. Do you still have to apply for a license if you do 90 days plus?
I don't believe so, because again, that's going to
Is that
the
gonna be like on delivery if you
I believe so. But again, we'll see as information comes out, right? Yeah.
Are you into 90 days? Are you back into the horrendous tenancy law for BC, or are they kind of waiving that to entice people to do the 90 days? Or
That's a bit of a gray area, and I might defer that to a lawyer.
Yeah, I actually think I have, I think one of the previous PowerPoints I did. There's no set time in the Residential Tenancy Act, but once you get into that 90 days kind of thing, there's almost a presumption that you're into the Residential Tenancy Act. Keep in mind that it doesn't, even if you say that it's not, it doesn't prevent the renter or tenant from alleging that they are.
Yeah, that's why we have lawyers in the room. Yeah.
Now, do you know Nathan Rothman?
No.
He is kind of a VP at Airbnb, and I've communicated with him a fair bit about this Airbnb thing. When Burnaby tried to put a bylaw into place, they didn't succeed. I like to think I had something to do with defeating it, because I did write a 4-page letter. But he cited a report that cities who have these restrictions, it doesn't change there's no material change to the housing stock. Any comments or experience on?
Well, here's my thoughts on this, right? So this bylaw is going to be passed into place, and what you're going to have is out of this 16,000 homes, you're going to have some people who are going to convert it to midterm rentals, like we said. You'll have some who might go back to long-term rentals, but a significant amount of people, if they're not cash flowing, they're going to liquidate their properties. So we're not actually, in my opinion, going to get a significant boost in our rental stock because of this bylaw. And we're already seeing it as realtors in the field. A significant amount of the listings that we're taking right now are tenant-occupied properties due to the interest rate hikes and people not being able to cash flow. So what's happening is every single time we sell, we're issuing a 2-month notice to evict because it's an end user buyer who's coming into place, which essentially is taking rental stock out of the rental pool and putting more tenants back in. So all we're doing is creating an even bigger vacancy issue. So as much as this is supposed to help the long-term rentals, I don't actually see that happening. I think it's actually going to be the reverse. And we know as Airbnb hosts, there's a significant demand for short-term rentals, right? You know, anything from people coming in for work assignments, if there's people coming in, or a great one that happened during 2020 and 2021, Airbnb was a savior for people who had sold their homes and got into that bidding war situation to have somewhere to stay until they were able to win the bid on a house, right? So there's a lot of reasons why Airbnb, in my opinion, is needed, because not only that, let's be honest. Let's look at some of the municipalities. Maple Ridge is a great example of it. The hotel stock, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say it is shit. Like you have 2 hotels, one was burned down, and the other one is just, yeah, we won't even go there, right? It's gross. So Airbnb is something that, in my opinion, and this is my soapbox moment, is absolutely needed in our areas. But you know, everyone likes to go after the people making money.
I was gonna say, everybody who's staying in Kelly's Airbnbs currently are all local.
Yeah.
So when they're saying that they don't want to go anywhere else, this is all local people that are helping out for everything.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of local people are using it. Absolutely. Sid, I saw your hat too.
Oh, I was just, again, further to Diane, like when we had all the flooding last year as well in Chilliwack now.
Absolutely.
Entire families had to evacuate, they all couldn't go to hotels, there isn't enough.
Yeah.
And also, the federal government can't push immigration and expect hundreds of thousands of people to move here when we can't build homes fast enough.
Yeah.
We don't have enough housing for the people here, period.
Yeah. So just for YouTube, what she was saying, and I totally agree with, is, you know, the situation that we had last year with the flooding in Chilliwack and Abbotsford, people needed to go somewhere, and Airbnb was a great option for a lot of people who needed that, especially if shelters were overrun or anything like that. And again, she mentioned the immigration. It's something that we talk about often, is immigration is coming. And sometimes if people come in, they'll stay in an Airbnb for several weeks while they get themselves settled and look for a rental, which we already know is very difficult for finding a rental.
Insurance claims?
Insurance claims, absolutely, yeah. Rainer?
Yeah, I've done all of that. I've had insurance claims for several months. I've had loads of COVID people quarantining. In fact, my suite used to be known as the Quarantine Inn. And I had my daughter staged in a table out. I have a very nice garden there. She was sitting there and reading a book that's actually still on my listing. I have a lot of, or I've also had medical situations.
Yeah.
I have one right now. So I have a 20-day booking from a family from Nanaimo, indigenous family that has a daughter and children with a very severe illness.
Yeah.
They,
There's lots of need for
Yeah.
the access to it, yeah.
But on that question, so I also set up an Airbnb in Vancouver a couple months ago, and they did ask me for my registration number. Now, I was planning to do 30-day minimum, and when I specified that, the question disappeared about the registration. But it raises a question, there's exemptions, and one exemption I think is indigenous folks can run Airbnb without a license.
That's correct, yeah.
In fact, I saw a wonderful listing in Gastown, a guy who says exempt. He's got a loft there. So does this create an opportunity for the indigenous people to run all the Airbnbs?
I mean, potentially. There is a level, several exemptions. I recommend just going to the website and checking out what those are. We won't go into too much detail. One stat that I found interesting that was on the website that they pointed out, which again, I wonder how they get this information, is they said 10% of the Airbnb owners are earning 50% of the income. And I'm like, I wonder if that's Kelly. But honestly, I don't exactly. I'm like, I don't know where they get these stats from. It's a business. It is a business at the end of the day. So
this guy who in Gastown Loft, he has 8,000 reviews.
Wow.
8,000.
That's pretty incredible.
And I'm doing the math and thinking, how many places does he have to get that many
here is an increasing in the inventory. So this is since November, which we did feel that it's been slowly creeping up. And in fact, from September to now, we're almost on par for the inventory we had last year. Same thing in, this is the Fraser Valley, and then Chilliwack just slightly down. But inventory, we can see, is starting to spike a little bit. So we're seeing more listings hit, and we're definitely feeling it. The amount of calls we're getting to list properties, we're sitting at like 30 listings at a time, where, even 6 months ago, we were sitting at 20. So we've had our inventory increase. The other thing is the inventory is sitting a lot longer than it used to be. We are seeing that when we take a listing, there's a high chance it's going to be on the market longer before it gets an offer. And then even then, we might need to do some pricing strategy adjustments. So taking a look at the supply then, the demand, we take a look at sales, and there's been a steep decline, except for, there's not a huge, like 150 to 200 slight increase in Chilliwack. We can see since June, April, May for Greater Vancouver, a steady decline in sales. So while inventory is still creeping up, the demand drop is why we're seeing things taking longer. So only 1,900 sales in the month of September, where when we look at the previous, let's see if we'll play here. We look at the previous slide here, we've got over 10,000, nearly 11,000 total listings. So, it's quite the difference, where when we remember back in the pandemic, we were like at 110% sales, right? So we were actually selling stuff that had sat prior in the market. So definitely something to keep in mind of, which means we are heading towards a buyer's market. We are sitting currently with our sales to active ratio in most areas in a balanced market. However, if the sales continue to decline and inventory continues to increase, we're going to enter that buyer's market. And we're going to see some downward pressure on homes values. Well, what opportunities does that create then? As investors, we make our money on the, starts with B, ends in Y, the buy, right? We make our money on the buy. And buyer's market is where, if we really take advantage of it, you can get some great deals. You can negotiate great deals. Again, just having the right strategy in place. Here's the impact we have seen on pricing so far. And as you can see, it's kind of been jumping around. Specifically in the Fraser Valley, we have taken a hit, which the Fraser Valley is more impacted by interest rate changes, right? More people are buying with mortgages in those markets. When you have markets like West Vancouver and the west side of Vancouver, Point Grey, well, they're not as impacted. So when a big sale happens, that's why you see sometimes it spikes a little bit. And Chilliwack's actually been kind of doing a little bit of a dance here. Again, it's an affordability factor, but it's interesting to see that the Chilliwack average price is back down to $760,000. Even a year and a half ago, we were talking about how Chilliwack was breaching $1 million plus as an average price. So what that tells me is two things. One, it's a great time to buy because prices are down. Rents have been steadily increasing. So there's a chance that the rent that you're going to pay or collect is likely going to put you close to a break even. And why I say break even is because don't forget interest rates are up, obviously. But again, run your numbers tight, and be proactive on your strategies. Make sure you've got exit strategies in place. All right, we're going to break down the market, going from east to west a little bit. What's actually been happening year over year, and it's actually kind of an interesting tale here. When we look at Chilliwack is still technically up year over year. They're up 17.8%, but again, listings still down a little bit. We are seeing it's trending upwards, so keep that in mind. So we look at the month over month, but we also look at the year over year. It's down from last year, but it's still trending upwards. And that's the case for townhouses, listings, all up still. But 2022, October, we were really dropping because that was when we were getting hit regularly by the interest rate. So keep that in mind. From the spring, we had some jump back up. Abbotsford actually declined 13% here. Pretty stagnant on the listings. We're down year over year here. Mission is up slightly, still an average over $1 million. Down a little bit in the townhouses and up quite a bit in condos. The reason why we're seeing the up quite a bit in condos is because there's a lot of newer development that is now starting to hit the market, right? A couple of years ago, we used to say, okay, there's only 3 listings on condos and they were all cheap because they were 1970s. That's starting to go away as we start to see more and more developments completing, like Wren and Raven, like Preston on 14th. There was a new project that was just launched called Silver and Cedar. So we're seeing more and more development start to happen. Of course, the Silverdale area has some significant amount of development happening in there. So inventory, you can see now up 69%. That's because like before we used to have like peanuts for condos. Langley is still one of the more expensive markets in the Fraser Valley at 1.7% as an average. Inventory is increasing down a little bit here, down a little bit here, but we're still pretty stable year over year. Again, I do anticipate if we continue to see demand drop though, and inventory rise, we'll probably start to see a reverse of these numbers in about 6 months. Surrey up, 13.4%, 6.5%, and 21.7% on the condos, well done condos. Inventory is up over last year in 2 of the categories and down a little bit on the townhouses. Maple Ridge, same thing. You're kind of seeing it all over the map in different categories, up in detached and townhouses, down 6.5 in the condos. Inventory up significantly here, a little bit here, still down. 81 townhouses is not a lot, and that's part of that missing middle, right? People are not wanting to sell right now when they can afford, and townhouses is still that affordability factor. Okay, Vancouver is a little bit of a different story though, because again, we talked about how the more expensive markets aren't impacted as much as the more affordable markets to interest rates. More people might be able to buy cash in some of these markets. Now, Vancouver East, we're still dealing with a little bit of that interest rate side on here. Detached is still up. It's actually creeping close to an average of 2 million right now in the Vancouver East side. 17% up, over 1.1 million in townhouses, and 750 in the condos. Inventory up a little bit, down slightly, not a big deal there. And then Vancouver West, of course, for the first time, I've actually been reporting it down slightly, right? So normally we've been seeing that continue to go up. It is down slightly under the 4 million mark now, which might be a little bit of a reprieve. Inventory is still down in this area, up a little bit. Townhouses over 1.6 and over $1 million for a condo, and inventory is still up. So that is the stats. That's what's going on right now in the market. The very important thing to note is that, as Warren Buffett says, be fearful when people are greedy. And we had a greedy market in 2020, 2021. And be greedy when people are fearful. There's a lot of fear in our market, and fear creates opportunity for the investors who know what to do and how to take advantage of it. Now, here's from the real estate board of the Fraser Valley. Housing market sales balance as demand softens and prices edge lower. We can see this house is not haunted. So when you see stuff like that, please be aware. If you see a sign like that, it's definitely haunted. So continued slowing sales as a healthy rise in new listings in September has brought the Fraser Valley into a balanced market. With inventories levels continuing on a slow and steady rise, together with new sales, what we are seeing is a more balanced market. If this trend continues, increased listings will help to maintain a balanced market, giving buyers greater choice. With interest rate uncertainty still in play, September sales were slower than the trends for this time of year. We're definitely seeing it. We're feeling it every single day, that it's definitely slow right now out there. So keep that in mind if you're looking to sell. Take advantage of it if you're looking to buy. Now, with that being said, there's still some hot deals out there. There's still deals to be had, and we got 2 projects that we have access to right now. They both did go to public launch, but prices are still really attractive on that. The first one here is the Arcadia. Now, the Arcadia is actually in Coquitlam, right in Burquitlam. Everyone knows what's happening in Burquitlam, right? Like, still a ton of developments happening in and around that SkyTrain, and that's going to continue for many years to come. So keep that in mind. We've got a project here. This one's by Quantum. It's 1 bed and dens, 2 beds, and 3 beds, everything like that. Strategically located, just minutes away from the Burquitlam's core, and a 7-minute walk to the SkyTrain. Of course, being in the Burquitlam area, your easy access over to SFU and great amenities as well. Prices are starting for 1 beds at just over $500,000 and 3 bedrooms up to $869,000. What I can tell you is these prices are very in line with where we're seeing the market today. We just had another project that I was in the show suite for called Hue. That one is by, I believe it's Marcon. And taking a look at their prices compared to this is actually a really good deal. Right now, you've got a assignment amount of $2,000 plus GST with developer's approval and 10% deposits completion estimate summer 2026. And this is exactly where it is. So you've got North Road right here turning into Clark. You've got the Burquitlam Plaza with the SkyTrain. Low heat shopping here. You can see it's right in a prime area surrounded by a ton of new development there. And our next project is the Gabriel, which is in South Surrey. And this is by Whitetail Homes, a developer we've done a lot of work with in the past. So we know it's a very quality built developer. This one's right in the heart of Central Surrey, across from the Queen Elizabeth Meadows and minutes away from King George SkyTrain. Again, great area. We know what's happening in Surrey. Surrey is developing like crazy as well. Prices for this one, 1 bedrooms are starting at $549. Now, the reason why these are a little more expensive is because they already did their opening weekend, and we know the cheapest ones are all gone already. So if you do want to get in, these are the larger 1-bedroom units. And you can see 3-bed and den, 2 baths up to $974. $1,000 assignment fee, 10% deposit, and estimated in February 2026. And this one's not a very clear photo, but you've got King George Boulevard here. The new UBC campus is going there, and we're not a short walk away. So great location for that one. Okay, flip your phones out. We got some QR codes. Thank you to, yep, refresh. Oh, I have to refresh? Okay. 1 second, we're gonna refresh. My boss told me to. Yeah, it's good now? Okay. Flipping our phones out. So here are some QR codes for you guys. If you're not following us on social media, follow us on social media. Get to know when we're doing these events, other events. We actually have an event coming up on Wednesday next week. Thanks to Chul, he's going to be putting on an event for Airbnbs, which is kind of funny that we were planning that for a month or so now. We're still going to talk about it. We can still adjust some strategies on that. But he's going to be bringing out the Korean community, and we're going to be talking about how they can get started investing in real estate. So stay tuned there. Okay, what I did want to talk about was this video here. We had a couple of months ago, Dave Webster from McLean Homes came out to speak about the tragic incident that happened on June 9th, 2023, just before midnight, where the building known as the Edge 3 literally burnt to the ground, right? It took with it the neighboring buildings, several single-family homes as well. And I had the pleasure and opportunity to be invited by McLean Homes to go on site just a couple of weeks ago and shoot a video to show the progress they have made since that devastating fire. This was a collaboration to, one, show the buyers that they do intend to rebuild. They are keeping their promises as mentioned, as well as give an insight on the type of development and why they're able to develop right away. So it's a really, in my opinion, a really cool video that we were able to put together. I would say it's probably one of the videos I'm most proud of putting out there. It's very documentary style. So if you haven't checked it out, you can scan here to watch the video, or just go to youtube.com/cameramanning, hit that subscribe button, and of course, watch that video and all past videos that I have there as well. Okay. Of course, follow Kelly and I on TikTok. It's interesting. I'm getting into some debates on TikTok right now about this whole Airbnb thing. And boy, oh boy, am I being raked over the coals. Of course, check out the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, basically anywhere you can listen to your podcast. And this is what I was mentioning before. If you're not a member of our online community yet, I highly, highly recommend it. Everyone on YouTube, again, we apologize for the issue with the sound today. That video will be posted later tonight in the Facebook group. And if you haven't seen it by midnight, just shoot me a DM. I'll make sure it gets on there before I go to bed. So you guys can watch Jordan's epic video that he put together for us. And of course, during our Monday morning market updates, this is where you guys are going to get the boots on the ground in the Facebook when I go live, letting you know what's actually happening every single week as we. And of course, our Team swag bag for you. What's included in the swag bag here is we got some Kelly Fry Team sunglasses. We have, what else do we have here? We got some notepads. We've got a copy of Real Estate Action 2.0 with my mug on it. And one thing that I think is super cool, I'm not going to unwrap it, but we have some Kelly Fry Team beer glasses. So it's something we did for one of our client events recently. I think there's like a pen in there. So some super cool swag. Thank you to everyone who's been participating. Stylishest Design. And the winner is Stylishest Design. All right, come on up. We've got your swag bag. I love the pink today, by the way. It's super cool.
Thank you.
Come here, give me a hug. All right. And congratulations. We'll get a quick photo.
Thank you.
Ready? Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Round of applause. right, and with that being said, our next month's meeting is going to be on November 23rd. So it's a little bit later in the month, just due to some travel that Kelly and I are doing. So make sure you save the date. Join us on meetup.com. Join us on the Facebook group. And thank you so much for coming out. And to everyone on YouTube, thank you so much for your patience tonight with the technical issues we had. Again, join us on Meetup. Join us on Facebook. And we'll see you guys on the next one. You can end the live. Thank you.